Hey everybody, it's GoblinX, and welcome back to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Early Access event. In today's video, I'll be playing another premiere draft of the brand new format, so thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for the promotional early access account. But without further ado, let's hop into the draft. Alright, here we are for our Pack 1 Pick 1, and we've got a pretty sweet rare, not a bomb or anything, but I think this is a solid synergy piece for a lot of decks in the format. The Ever-Flowing Well is a 3-mana legendary artifact that has you mill 2 and draw 2 cards when it hits the battlefield, so by milling yourself a little bit, you are filling your graveyard for mechanics like Descend and Craft. The Descend mechanic wants you to have a bunch of permanents in your graveyard. The Craft mechanic allows you to exile a specific card from your graveyard to transform your craft card. So as you can see on the stone tree, you'd want a cave in your graveyard to flip this card. So Ever-Flowing Well works pretty well with those graveyard mechanics, while also being a decent little card draw spell that leaves an artifact on the board, which is another relevant permanent type for the format. There's some cards that can tap artifacts for value, and some cards that can sacrifice them for value, so I think it's pretty reasonable to just go the simple route and start with our rare for our Pack 1 Pick 1. For Pack 1 Pick 2, we will take a peek throughout the whole pack here. There is a common that I quite enjoy, actually multiple of them. I've been impressed by the Oaken Siren. There are a lot of artifact cards in the format, so this just chips in with that flying and vigilance, constantly pinging at your opponent while also potentially helping you cast your other artifact spells like Ever-Flowing Well. So that's pretty cool. River Herald Scout is excellent value, though. I think any creature that explores when it enters the battlefield is pretty great. This is a returning mechanic from the original Ixalan that lets you reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand if it's a land, or mill it or keep it there if it's a non-land. And if it's a non-land, you get a +1/+1 counter, making this a 2-mana 2/3, which is super good. There's also Ruin Lurker Bat, which is kind of nice. I mean, a 1-mana 1/1 flying lifelink isn't that impressive, but it's not that hard to buff this up with some equipment or +1/+1 counters from getting it to explore or something like that. So I don't think that's terrible, but I think I'm just going to stick to blue here and go with the River Herald Scout, one of the better blue cards we see in the pack. For Pack 1 Pick 3, we see a Careening Minecart, which is a very nice colorless card. Very easy to crew it, you only need 1 power to do so, and every time this attacks you get a treasure token. It's a 3-mana 3/3 as well, so it's perfectly reasonably statted. I think this fits into pretty much any deck pretty well. It's going to be at its absolute best in the blue-red kind of artifact deck in the format, but it's flexible enough to fit into anything, so I think that's pretty good. But another really nice option is the Stinging Cave Crawler here. This is going to be awesome in Descend decks where you can get that graveyard full so that this does draw you a card whenever it attacks. And because it has Death Touch, you know it's going to trade into something when you attack with it and draw your card. So I like the Cave Crawler too, but the Minecart is more open. As for commons, there's some pretty sweet cards like the Oltec Cloud Guard that gives you a gnome, so it's 2 permanents off of this 1 spell, which is great. The artifact creature being a great piece of sacrifice fodder too. And I also think Saheeli's Lattice is a pretty fun spell too. There's a lot of just really cool, really fun spells. Don't have the time to show them all off when I'm trying to read off all the abilities here. But I think we're just going to stick pretty heavy on blue for now and pick our secondary color later. And it's pretty easy to do that here with an Oaken Siren being in this pack. I think this card is going to synergize quite well with our Ever-Flowing Well and our Careening Minecart. A couple artifacts already to cast off it. Pretty happy to take that. Not super pumped about Self-Reflection. I think this is a ton of mana to use on both halves of the card. Probably the best synergy is to randomly mill it off of the Ever-Flowing Well or something, then flashback it. But even then, it's not incredible. I'm just going to take the Oaken Siren. We could push into red with Goblin Tomb Raider, going for blue-red artifacts and pirates, or Gold Fury Strider. Does kind of the same thing, lets you tap some extra artifacts or creatures to get some damage in. These are both towards the blue-red archetype from here, but stick to just blue. Leave us open to being maybe blue-white Craft or blue-black Descend still. And for pick 5, there's a Hurl into History, which is pretty gross if you can resolve it. If you can resolve it, you're going to win the game, but it's kind of narrow, specifically countering an artifact or creature, and you have to hold 5 mana up to do it. I think that's narrow enough that I'm not that interested in it. Waylaying Pirates does look pretty good if you have a ton of artifacts in your deck, and we already have 3 of them. So that's already 3/4 of the cards we've drafted. So this is a decent little stun card here. Could just take the Waylaying Pirates, stick into blue for now. We could move to green with our first craft card. The craft mechanic is a great way to use your extra cards in graveyard, because again, you flip this with a creature in your graveyard into a 7-mana 7/7 that gains you life equal to the creature's power, I believe. No, mana value. Had to reread it real quick. So that'd be decent, but we'll just take the Waylaying Pirates. Ooh, Cenote Scout. Pick 6. That is pretty late. Maybe we're moving into Green-Blue Explorer. This card is absurd. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that draws you a card if there's a land on top of your deck. Otherwise, it's a 1-mana 2/2 that lets you surveil one, so you put the card back on top or bottom if it's a non-land. Both those are an absurdly good rate in Limited and Draft and Sealed here, so I like this a lot, and the draft pod is just very simple for us, because we could just take the Iceberg and stick to mono blue still, maybe play a literal mono blue deck here, because this is great for an artifact deck like literally everything else we've drafted is. I mean, if we push to a secondary color, green has a great sign there with the Scout, but honestly, not only is there a great blue spell still in the pack, but it's a very synergistic one too, so I'm going to take the Inverted Iceberg here. Little 2-mana draw spell with a 6-mana 6/6 attached for an artifact deck. For pack 1, pick 7 now. Think we probably stop taking blue spells. I mean, Ancestral Reminiscence does not seem horrible. Draw 3, discard 1. It's a lot of card draw for only 4 mana. Could absolutely stick to that. I don't think any of these off-color cards look particularly exciting. The most exciting for our deck is probably in the presence of Ages, because it can fill that graveyard well with the 4-mil. But that's not that much better than just taking Ancestral Reminiscence here. Okay, pick 8. There are literally no blue cards. We finally get to dive into a second color, and when there's 2 black uncommons in here, I think we know what color we want to choose. Deep Cavern Bat is a solid creature, good enter the battlefield effect to exile one of your opponent's cards until this leaves the battlefield. It does exile a card in their hand, so it's not removal or anything, but it's great value till they kill it. The Stinging Cave Crawler is really cool for a self-mill kind of deck, though, and we have some Explore abilities, as well as the Ever-Flowing Well, which mills us 2, the Inverted Iceberg, which mills us 1. I think I'd rather take the little Descend synergy card there with the Stinging Cave Crawler. For pack 1, pick 9, we have an Orazca Puzzle Door, which I found to be pretty solid in blue-based artifact decks, because this is a cheap little draw spell that leaves an artifact in your graveyard that you can exile later in the game to flip your Inverted Iceberg style cards. Flip your artifact from your grave. Well, exile your artifact from your grave, so I think that's fine. We could also take Kaslam Stone Tree, speculate towards green as a secondary color. Have to pick up some caves for that, but pretty good card when you have some caves. Caves, of course, being the non-basic lands in the format. There's about 1 per pack, usually, in the land slot. They are all relatively dirtily, like enters the battlefield tapped kind of lands, so you should be able to pick up a decent amount when you have some cave synergies. Now we've got Hermetic Nautilus, which is just a solidly statted artifact creature to go with our artifact nonsense, so I'll scoop it up. Rampaging Spiketail seems like a fine card to fill out a blue-black Descend deck, but we can also take the Blunder, which is a reasonable interaction, and I don't think Spiketail is going to be incredible for blue-black. I'll take the Blunder here. If we open up literally any just powerful rare pack 2, we can just take that rare and do that as the secondary color because we're so deep on blue here. I think I'm going to take the Promising Vein in case I want some caves, but Idol of the Deep King is not the worst removal ever. 3 mana for 2 damage isn't great, but you get an equipment off of it too, which is some extra value. Pirate Hat does not seem like a very good equipment, so I'll take the Freebooter in case we're blue-black, but that also doesn't seem like a great creature. And let's see what we open up in pack number 2. Alright, we opened up a gigantic tortoise, the Bedrock Tortoise. 4 mana for a 0/6, but each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So it's a 4 mana 6/6, and all of your creatures have hexproof during your turn, so your opponent can't use any instant speed removal. that seems like the pick here. I mean, Tinker's Tote is great synergy with all our blue artifact stuff if we want to go like blue-white artifacts, but maybe blue-green ramp stuff, get to actually play this Bedrock Tortoise would be sweet. I don't think the blue card in this pack is very exciting, so... although the red card is really powerful, this might even just be stronger than the Tortoise. A 4-mana 3/2 that discovers 3. 2 cards off of the 1 spell, you cast both immediately. You cast a 3/2 and you cast a 2-drop or a 3-drop alongside it. You know, Appraiser's actually such an absurd rate, I think it's probably better than Bedrock Tortoise for the just instant 2-for-1 there. Still think we're more likely to be black than red now that we see a Bitter Triumph, though. Because this is incredibly efficient removal. 2 mana for an instant, you can destroy target creature or planeswalker. You have to discard a card or pay 3 life, but that's such a cheap, instant speed way to kill whatever you need to. Bitter Triumph is incredible here. I think we take that. Now we're more prone to going blue-black than blue-red, because this is pretty much equally good with the Appraiser, I would say. So now we have Triumph plus Crawler Freebooter competing with just Appraiser in terms of the directions to go for our secondary color. Pack 2, pick number 3. I do think we have enough self-mill that the Frilled Caveworm can relatively frequently be a 4-mana 4/5, so that could be pretty good. Waterlogged Hulk is a lot of fun for a deck that's really trying to fill its graveyard. Just keep tapping this, milling cards over and over and over again. Eventually get this very cheap to crew vehicle. You just need 1 power on the board. Don't hate that. Maybe we take the Hulk and try to wheel the Caveworm as the card that's more likely to come back. I actually don't know early in the format if Waterlogged Hulk or Frilled Caveworm is going to get taken more early by players generally. Could also just take the cave. It's great value. If you run out of things to do, you just crack your land, discover 4. So that means reveal cards from the top till you hit a mana value 4 or less card, cast it for free. Very solid mechanic. Pick 4. We're still just happy to be in blue here. There's a confounding riddle. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Great way to fill that graveyard for the Descend shenanigans, for the Craft shenanigans, super quickly. And it's also a counterspell at the same time if you need to do that instead. Confounding Riddle seems very solid for a Descend and Craft style deck. Pack 2, pick 5. I don't think we're going to manage to get enough exploring for the Merfolk Cave Diver to be very exciting. We have like 1 or 2 explore cards right now. I think literally 1. And we've been drafting tons of blues, so I don't think we're getting much more. We can take another Oaken Siren, which looks solid for the deck, or Lodestone Needle. Stuns a thing and then sits here exploring forever for value. It's dirtily, but we're good at filling our grave with artifacts. I think I'd rather just have another Oaken Siren. Pack 2, pick number 6. We've got a flexible counterspell. Double blue is the hardest sell on this card, the fact that you have to have 2 blue sources, but we're so heavy in blue that shouldn't be an issue. So probably take this. Swashbuckler's Whip is kind of an annoying little tapper effect that we could play around with, but I think I'm happy to grab Out of Air in a deck that's this deep into blue. Another Scout. Pick 7. No respect for the Scout. I don't think I've seen green being like massively open outside of these Scouts specifically just coming super late. So we have Pirates, Cogwork Wrestler, and Frilled Caveworm, all of which would be pretty awesome for this deck. I do like a 1-mana little artifact you drop at instant speed. That -2/-0 can win some combat sometimes. I actually have been pretty impressed by the Wrestler. I'm going to scoop it up here over these cards. Ooh, speaking of things I've been impressed by, a pick 8 Waterwind Scout. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer that comes with a map token as well, so you can do some exploring with it, which could put a +1/+1 counter on it, make it a 3/3 flyer, or it just draws you a card, sets up your draws. Really good stuff from Waterwind Scout. Pick 9. Can dirtle around with a Shipwreck Sentry if I want, or take something off color like a Freebooter or Bristleback. I think Bristleback's just the strongest card in this pack, so I'll take that. The Dowsing Device can get a lot of extra damage in a blue-red artifact build, so that's kind of interesting too. But I do like the gigantic 5/5 plus 3/3 that this thing provides, if we randomly go in that direction. And at this point, we're just so deep in blue, we can just dip a toe into like every other color. And once again, if we open up something super powerful in a specific other color, we could still go in that direction. Okay, I think I do like the cave worm in here. 4 mana, 4/5. Take that over Cataract. Yeah, I'll take a frilled cave worm here. Gotta get Descend going, but I think this deck can do it. Another Ancestral Reminiscence. Well, we do get a Pirate Hat if we want to run that in the end. Pretty filler, but we could do it. A lot of blue creatures are randomly pirates. Nice, we only have 3 right now. But you can still equip this to non-pirates, it just costs kind of a lot of mana to do so. 2 instead of just 1. Alright, pack 3, pick 1. I don't really want a third out of air. And the Benthasar is only good if you have a lot of caves. Look at the top X cards library, where X is the number of caves you control, plus the number of caves in your graveyard. If you have 2 caves, that's when it's really good. Just a 6 mana 4/4 that draws 2, and anything above 2 just lets you dig even deeper, which is really nice. Again, I only have 1 cave right now, but maybe it's best to take this and just slam some caves here and just be mono blue, because I don't see any of these off-color cards to be massive reasons to head that way. There's an efficient removal spell and Get Lost, which is fine. An Explore creature in green, a Brontodon in green as well. Just some solid stuff, nothing incredible there, so I'll take the big old Benthasar. We'll see if we find some caves to play with it. Got the super expensive Hurl into History. We've also got another River Herald Scout that's pretty exciting. The Cave Worm, that's definitely going to come back based on how these last few packs have gone. The end of pack 2 specifically. I'll take another River Herald Scout here. Pack 3, pick 3. Alright. Ukbenbach the Great Mistake looks like an awesome reason to finally commit to playing a little bit of black here. This is a 5 mana 6/4 Vigilance Menace up front that's already pretty terrifying, and if you manage to get 8 permanents in your graveyard, you can reanimate this from your grave for 6 mana with a finality counter on it, so it will be exiled the next time it dies, but that still makes it 2 scary 6/4 Vigilance Menace threats over time, which is terrifying. So throw these black spells back in. Pack 3, pick 4. Song of Stupefaction is another way to get some permanents into our graveyard with that self-mill. We could also take Captain Storm alongside Geological Appraiser here as a reason to move to red. I don't think Stupefaction is going to be really exciting, so I'll keep that back door open. If we get past more incredible blue-red cards, we can go that way. But we get another solid black card, the Visage of Dread. We need our opponent to have an artifact or creature in their hand for this to be great, but if they do, we slam this on the board. It immediately 1-for-1s our opponent by making them discard a card when we play our card. And late in the game, once we fill our graveyard, we flip this thing into a 5/4 menace, and we've gotten 2 spells off this one thing. I think that's pretty good. Could also just take Deathcap Marionette to have more self-mill real quick. I think that would also be pretty nice, but I'm going to go for the Visage here. Try out the uncommon that we'll have less opportunities to play around with. Pick 6 now. Tithing Blade's probably pretty good for a controlling, dirtly blue-black deck like what we're doing here. Obviously, if our opponent has some creature tokens on the board, this will be rough. They just sacrifice their 1/1 gnome token or whatever. But if they don't, killing any actual creature with this and then later being able to craft this as a very slow win condition could be fine. So we'll take the Tithing Blade here. I think it's definitely better than a third out of air or something like that. Pick number 7. That is a late Spyglass Siren, and we are super happy to take it. Hits the board with a map token that we can use to explore to set up our draws. Just an excellent card. Very good rate on that creature. Pick 8. We've definitely got enough artifacts to run a Zoetic Glyph in here. Turn one of our random tokens into a 5/4, and whenever that card dies, the glyph goes to our graveyard and we discover 3, so we get to draw another card and immediately cast it. Glyph seems pretty awesome for this deck. Pick 9. Go ahead and take Some kind of nonsense. Acolyte, another out of air, or buried treasure. I'm not going to be happy to use any of these, really. I'll just take the third out of air, throw it in the side. No, we'll take the acolyte, throw it in the side. We have it as an option when we get to the deck building if it looks like there's some synergy I'm not thinking of that ends up being great for it. Take our cave worm here. I think we are going to end up cutting the Benthasar. We might still play the Promising Vein just to put another permanent in our grave by sacking it, but it is an expensive ability. And I believe this is pretty much going to end the draft here. Now we get to look around through our deck and see exactly how we want to build it, which should be pretty cool. Probably actually are playing 2 copies of Sage of Days. Because at worst, we just mill 3. Even if we don't want any of the cards, we can just mill 3, get a bunch of permanents in our graveyard, which is nice. Now that we have Ukumenbach, which wants like 8 cards in the grave for its Descend ability. Alright, we've got 53 cards, so we can cut 13 here, which is quite a lot. So let's see how we want to build this thing. Probably want to look through, cut our most dirtily spells. How much interaction do we have if I cut the out-of-air counter spells? I'm hoping we have enough so I can cut some instants and sorceries just to keep that permanent count really high. I'll still have a Confounding Riddle for a counter spell. I'll also have a Tithing Blade, but we don't get to choose what we kill with that. We'll have a Bitter Triumph that can kill anything, and a Brackish Blunder that is a bounce spell. Still feels a little low on removal without these counter spells, so I kind of feel like I'm going to run them. How much card draw do we have without the Ancestral Reminiscences? We'll still have Inverted Iceberg to draw 1, Everflowing Well to draw 2, Stinging Cave Crawler attacks in, draws 1, trades off. I don't think I'm playing Pirate Hat. I think I'll still want like at least 1 Ancestral Reminiscence in here, ideally. What else? I'll cut 1, put the other back in. Keep all this stuff. So, Canonized in Blood, we can descend relatively consistently with some cards that like hit the battlefield and mill us, some cards that hit the battlefield and explore. We've got the Waterlogged Hulk to mill every single turn. But, I don't know. If we're ever missing on a +1/+1 counter, this card's just really bad. Yeah, I mean, the dream with this is you get a +1/+1 counter during your end step every turn, and then eventually you get a 7-mana 4/3 flyer. I just don't think either of those stat lines is great. I don't think I want to run that. Certainly run the rest of our interaction. I don't think we need the Relics Roar. It's cute with our map tokens and our treasure token we might have here or there. Turn 1 into a 4/3, but using it on a creature and stuff, not that exciting. I don't think I'm playing around with that. Okay, definitely love the self-mill of Waterlogged Hulk. I love that we can use the Puzzle Door for early card draw and have another permanent in our grave after we use it. That feels pretty synergistic. So we've got that going for us. I guess when you add the Puzzle Door to the card draw, Reminiscences also, once again, slightly less necessary. I'll cut it for now. Still need to cut 8 more cards, so Freebooter's a little dirtily. Cogwork Wrestler probably also a little dirtily, but I'll keep it in for now because I just enjoy it a lot. Alright, the Nautilus, the Iceberg, the Double Siren, and the Double Herald Scout are great. Shipwreck Sentry, though, not so much. We've got a Waterwind Scout that's great, a Stinging Cave Crawler that's nice in here, the Double Sage really fill the graveyard, help get there. So cut these. Still need to cut 6 cards. I just don't have room to hold all these playables. To hold this whole deck together. So I don't have a lot of like super high mana value artifacts to spend the Siren mana on, but I can spend them on these craft abilities, which is nice. Yeah, I spend them on the 6-drop Iceberg and Visage of Dread. The Sage of Days is not only fueling the 8 Descend for Ukmenbach, but it's also fueling the craft of the Iceberg and the Visage, so that's big. Maybe I am just cutting the counterspells here because they're just kind of our only non-permanent cards in the deck at this point, and it would be really nice if basically everything in the deck's a permanent to fuel all the Descend and all the crafting and stuff. Now I'll cut the out of airs, and that puts us to 44. If I don't run these Sages, I'll still have 3 ways to explore and maybe mill a non-land with those. A 4th way with a Waterwind Scout. I'll also have a mill 1 with an Iceberg, a mill 2 with an Everflowing Well, a mill 3 with a Confounding Riddle, a mill every turn with Waterlogged Hulk, a mill 1 with an Orazka Puzzle Door. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I almost feel like we can get pretty high on Descend without the double Sage. And other than fueling Descend, they are pretty dirtily, because they're not drawing us any cards up front or anything. It's just a 3-mana 3/2 that maybe later in the game we get our Descend count upped to help us out. But I only have, like, well, with triple Cave Worm, it gets a little more tempting, but I could do some combination of cutting the Sages and the Cave Worms, and then the only main Descend stuff I have is 1 Cave Crawler, 1 Ukmenbach. Although we do get to Descend 8 on the Everflowing Well potentially at that point. Although this is not the craziest Descend ability. Whenever you cast a permanent, another permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell this turn. Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any permanents that are that good to use this ability with. We have like 1. Like if I cast Ukmenbach and make a land a 6/4 Vigilance Menace for a turn, that's insane. But most of our permanents, like if I make something a copy of an Iceberg till end of turn, it doesn't change anything. If I make something a copy of a Visage till end of turn, it doesn't change anything. So it's just like, oh, now I have a land that's a 1/2 till end of turn. So I actually don't think the back half of the Myriad pools is that crazy. So really, for Descend stuff, if we drop the Cave Worms for the most part, then it's just Ukmenbach and the Cave Crawler. Otherwise, we just need enough mill to get to craft, which we don't really need that much. We've already got plenty, I think. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll cut the double Sage, cut the double Cave Worm, still keep 1 in here. Keep the creature count a little bit higher than just like non-existent. So yeah, I think this looks like a pretty fun, pretty solid place to be. At this point though, lowering the Descend, maybe we do throw at least 1 counterspell back in here for a little bit more interaction in the deck. I think that could be reasonable. In which case, maybe we even just drop the Cave Worm for a counterspell here. Yeah, sure. Drop a Cave Worm, throw in a counterspell. You know what? I think I've actually changed my mind here. I kind of want to maybe lower on some of these artifact synergies and just focus full on the self-mill. Because we could drop like these 3 pretty easily, maybe these 4, 5, and that gives us room for the double Sage, triple Cave Worm, and we can be really streamlined and focused on 1 primary synergy. Could definitely be worth it in the end. Still feel like the glyph might be good enough, but we go like cut these 4, and then I can throw in double Sage, double Cave Worm, and try that thing out. I really feel like the Cave Worm could be pretty decent in here with the Sages, just as a 4-mana 4/5 pretty consistently. So, last second change to the deck, but gonna get a little more focused back on the Descent mechanic here. Alright, here we have a look at our completed deck list for today. We're on a blue-black Descent deck, so this kind of archetype is going to use a lot of self-mill to end up with enough permanents in our graveyard to craft a lot of stuff, as well as to trigger some big Descent payoffs. So with cards like Inverted Iceberg milling us when we play them, as well as the Waterlogged Hulk that mills every turn, the Puzzle Door that puts itself in the graveyard, and the Explore abilities that let us mill the top card of our library if it's a non-land, we can fill that graveyard with permanents pretty quickly so that our cards like Stinging Cave Crawler can draw cards when they attack, our Frilled Cave Worms can be 4 mana 4/5s, and our Ukbenbach can come back from the grave later in the game. So a lot of really powerful descend effects in the deck. We've also got a lot of good just card advantage, just general blue-black control stuff, with big card draw spells like the Everflowing Well, the Confounding Riddle, and some nice efficient interaction with a Bitter Triumph, a Brackish Blunder, Tithing Blade, and an Out of Air. Looks like a pretty fun deck, pretty different from some of the stuff we've been doing. Excited to see how it plays out as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1, and we are just going to fill that graveyard with a Waterlogged Hulk. Let's get things going here. Alright, milled our Visage of Dread immediately. Sad day. Sad day. Okay, pass the turn since they didn't play a creature. My pet's gone. I swear I put a pet on, but it has vanished. I had my own dinosaur. Sadness. Okay, let's mill again. Aw, we milled our one non-permanent card in the deck here. Let's drop the Stinging Cave Crawler, because we can have enough descent for that next turn off of the Everflowing Well to get the card draw off of its next attack. Screaming Phantom is the play. So if I Tithing Blade them, we actually probably get them to sacrifice the Phantom at this point. Because they're going to want to keep the Marionette to kill the Cave Crawler. So I can't have enough permanents in my grave for the Cave Crawler. Unless, you know what I could do? I could Bitter Triumph, discarding a permanent and mill myself to kill the Marionette, send in the Cave Crawler, draw a card. Then they have no blocks that kill the Cave Crawler, and I have enough permanents in there. Yeah, ditch the minecart here because my creatures are so big, I don't want to crew the minecart anyway with my current hand. I think that's reasonable. Kill the Marionette so we can attack with Cave Crawler without it dying. Put a permanent into our grave. Mill another permanent. I probably should have used this first just in case I hit a non-permanent. But as far as I remember, there were no more non-permanents in the deck. But I guess there were two, because there's the Out of Air and the Bitter Triumph. Let me take another look at the deck list. Oh, I can't, because it's still early access, so they don't have it in Untapped yet, in the deck tracker. Alright, Mephitic Draft from our opponents. Draws them a card when it hits the board and when they sack it. Tithing Blade looking pretty good here. So we go Tithing Blade plus Inverted Iceberg, or I just play a 4/5, honestly. Yeah, I don't need to make them sack the Phantom. So yeah, just play a Cave Worm. Seems perfectly fine. Draw another card. Boom. Here's a 4 mana 4/5. Boom. Go from there. I do have a Descend 8 card in my hand, but I don't know if I want to keep milling at this point. Fanatical Offering. Sacrifice the draft, and they're going to draw 3. 1 from it going to the graveyard, and 2 from the Fanatical Offering. And they're going to get a map token, which they can explore with to try to draw another card. Oh, there's their own Bitter Triumph. Blow up our card draw engine. It's a goner. 5 permanents in my grave now. I mean, I guess if I get 8, the Gondola itself can just kill them. Just an unblockable 4-power attacker over and over. Yeah, I don't hate it. I'll mill myself. We'll have 8 as soon as I play the Everflowing Well now. So you play that if I top deck any land, I play the Tithing Blade the same turn. I think that's the play. Did hit a land. Oh, I do have 3 instants in here. Oh my god. I have so many more non-permanents than I thought I did. But I can still just mill one more off the Waterlogged Hulk if I really want. Okay, I don't think Tithing Blade's getting any better, because they play a bigger creature later, they'll still just sack the Phantom. But if they play a smaller creature, then they'll sack that, so... Yeah, let's Tithing Blade. Kill the Phantom. Pass the turn. Got some great 1-mana creatures to crew the Waterlogged Hulk whenever I flip it now. Oh, their own Tithing Blade. That's a little better than ours was. Kill a 4/5 instead of a 2/2 flyer. The Skullcap Snail. Pretty annoying because we have to exile a card from our hand rather than just discard one. I think we ditch the Ground Troop, keep the flyer. Don't think I ditched the 6/6 Iceberg here. Beginning of our upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanents in our grave, transform this. Okay, so the Everflowing Well is going to flip. And then whatever I cast off of this, I get to turn a land into a copy of. So if I play a 3/3, I hit them with a land this turn, too. Whenever you cast a permanent spell, so crafting doesn't count. So I guess I play our pirates and make my Tithing Blade or my Waterlogged Hulk a pirate as well. And then I can play the Iceberg this turn too. Next turn I can play a Waterwind Scout, make one of these 2/2 flyer and attack with it. $14 cards left. The self-mill is spooky. Alright, Mineshaft Spider. That's going to be hard to get through. Yeah, we're going to have to flip the Hulk and just start getting unblockable attacks in, or flip the Blade and just start draining their life. I mean, why not both, I guess. Ooh, the gain 3 dinosaur. If they have another dinosaur, they can gain 3, but they milled it, so I'm guessing they don't have another dinosaur. Seven. I could have 8 mana here. 8 mana is 1 mana lower than enough to flip both of these. I need 9 to flip both. Can't hit them at all this turn, no matter what I do. One, two, three, 4. I guess I could flip the Hulk and cast the Waterwind Scout. Chump attack. They kill my pirates, but I hit for 3 this turn. Just get them closer to dying to the Hulk and the Tithing Blade and stuff. Probably fine. Turn a token into a scout. Oh, what am I doing? I have to use this when I cast the scout. Okay. Token into the scout so they can't kill the Tithing Blade or the Iceberg and stop us from flipping it. I only need 4 mana left now, so I can spend 1 and explore and see if I can buff one of these. I cannot. Okay, they kill the 3/3 and take 3. I think that's fine. Decent reason to sack a 3/3 here. Put them to 6 against a 4/4 unblockable. And a wide board state. Okay, we have a 4/4 unblockable vehicle and a Tithing Blade we can flip to drain them for some life. Gorestalker, we both sack 2 creatures. Now I have to draw another creature to crew my vehicle. They're going to keep their spider. Okay, I guess I don't technically have to draw another creature because I can flip the Iceberg and do it. Exile an artifact from the grave. Rod for 4. They're down to 2. Even if they flip their Tithing Blade to gain 1 life, they'll still die next turn if they can't kill my gondola. Wait, exile a creature, vehicle, or non-basic? They killed our 6/6 rather than the gondola itself? That gives us a chance to draw a creature again. Because that is exile target vehicle removal. But they probably just didn't notice that it could do that. Okay. Dig 3 cards deep? Oh no, I can't use the map without a creature, so just dig 2 cards deep. For a creature, if there is one, we win. There is 2, and 1 is incredible. Oh, I actually should have done this the other way, because putting this in the grave meant I could reanimate it. But I guess this way I get to duplicate it and give it haste. I'll keep the haste one, right? Yeah, it's cooler to kill them with Ukbenbach with Menace than it is to kill them with the gondola, so we'll do that. Alright. So that was an interesting little ruling thing there in the end. I kind of forgot about the legendary effect, so I was going to have to sack one anyway, but we had 2 of them for a moment, but then I had to sack one to state-based actions. I think because of that, I couldn't, like, crew gondola with one and then sack one. But maybe if I was in full control mode, I could do that. I'm not actually sure. I think the legendary rule, because it's a state-based action, applies and forces me to sacrifice one before I can try to activate any abilities or put anything on the stack there. So I don't think I could have like crewed gondola with this one and then attacked with the clone and the gondola that turn. But yeah, that was sweet. That was really cool stuff from the blue-black Descend deck, and we are 1-0 heading into game 2. And I am going to make a slight adjustment to the deck. Maybe it's a bad idea, but I did notice having the like 3 or 4 non-permanent cards. I was getting a little sketched out. I think Out of Air is our weakest non-permanent card in the deck, so I'm going to just cut that for another Frilled Caveworm. Card was solid for the cost. Here we are now for game number 2. We don't get the ultimate Descend Fueler this game. We don't get to mill a card every single turn off of our waterlogged thingy-madookie. We have to start off with River Herald Scout turn 2. Ooh, but we do have the ultimate Descend payoff at the end. The Great Mistake. Alright, we're drawing lands very well. Explore into a Visage of Dread. I'm going to mill that. Start working on our Descend, because I'm going to spend 3 mana on Sage next turn, then 4 on the Caveworm, then 5 on the Ukbenbach. So, we are not going to have time to fit a Visage on the curve. A Visage? I don't know. I think both works. Neither works. Someone will be mad, either way I pronounce it. It's probably more annoying when I just go back and forth and just can't decide. But that's just who I am. Alright, we hit our 5th land, and now we Sage and just mill all the cards. Just mill 3 so I have 4 permanents in grave. Yep. Boop, boop, boop. Descend 4 has been reached. I think I just hold the Scout back as a blocker so they can't send in with Raider and trade into one of my cards, although trading's not terrible because I get another permanent in my graveyard. It's just probably worse value in the long run to trade down into a 1-drop just for Descend. Alright, use the map token on the Waterwind Scout, but they just hit a land so it doesn't get a +1/+1 counter. But they still draw a card from the map token, which is great. Now their artifact's gone, so that thing's a 1/2. I'm going to have a 4/5 blocker up here, so we just send in with the team. Hit for 5 and drop a 4/5. Boom. Been saying that a lot today. I think this format just makes me feel like boom. I don't know, I've been loving it so far. I'm going to be really happy to Bitter Triumph discarding a land. Just get another permanent in the grave. I'm just going to set this aside for that specifically. I'll get to the 8 permanents in grave. So speaking of pronunciations, I've been saying Uchbenbach a lot. I don't even know if that's right. It might be Uchbenbach. Uchbenbach. There's a lot of different ways that could be said. So a 2-3 and a 1-2. That's 3 power out there. Trade there. Bounce there. I think I just attack all, drop my 6-4 Vigilance Menace here. See if they have some double blue nonsense. Oh, you know it would suck off of their double blue. They could have that counter spell that I cut out of my deck. Counter target creature for 2 blue mana or counter any spell for 4 mana total. Let's find out. Alright, no counter spell. And I suppose even if they had it, this would be sitting in my grave waiting to be recast later. Eventually. Alright, discover 4 off the Hidden Cataract. They are rolling the roulette wheel and they hit a 1-drop Goblin Tomb Raider. Rough luck for our opponent on that one. And our attacks are looking incredible. 6, 10, 11, 12. Oh my god, yeah, they just trump a 4-5 here, I imagine. I don't think it's worth killing this thing, because it's not quite lethal if I do. I could put them to 1, but I feel like I might as well just get them to chump block and then have a 4-creature board state with a Bitter Triumph up to make sure I find lethal next turn. Hit another Cave Worm? I mean, that's a reasonable draw to me. There's a Plundering Pirate. Gets them a treasure token. Now a Rumbling Rockslide to kill Uchbenbach. Or Uchbenbach. Sadness on the stack. They attack, they're dead on board. Oh no, they go to 1 life on board. They're not quite dead. But they are certainly dead to the Bitter Triumph on their blocker. But yeah, they could chump the Cave Worm, take 4, go to 1. Now they go to 0, and that is 2-0, heading into game number 3. Here we are on the play for game 3. Siren into Iceberg into Everflowing Well. That's going to fill a grave quick. Or I could Visage turn 2. I probably want to do that, because I really want to make sure I'm actually making them discard a card with this. The later I do it, the more likely they are to have cast all of their creatures and artifacts in hand. So here's our Spyglass Siren turn 1. I guess maybe if I don't draw land, I'd still rather Iceberg to draw towards it. Or River Herald Scout here. Yeah. I want to dig for a land pretty badly. Get that turn 3 Everflowing Well, make sure I still work my way up the curve. We do hit the land. Beautiful. There's a Kellen, Daring Traveler. This card's great, right? Yeah, whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature with mana value 3 or less, put it in your hand, or you can put it in the graveyard. So it just keeps drawing cards if they keep hitting creatures off it. Alright, well now I wish I just made them discard that, but obviously we did not know they had a mythic... Oh, a rare 2-drop, not a mythic. I thought because it was Kellen it would be mythic, but no. Kellen has been downgraded. Probably time for some mana efficiency here with Everflowing Well, and turn 4 we play 2 2-drops. Oh snap, I have so many non-permanents in this deck, I keep forgetting. We've got a Blunder too, we've got a bounce spell in here. Still think I'd rather keep that one in over the counter spell, so I think that's fine. I guess I could just play Waylaying Pirates and keep Kellen tapped. Stop them from drawing any cards there next turn. Plus then I have a 3-3 blocker for it in the long run. There's their own Everflowing Well. Some card draw going. No, I'll give them another opportunity to draw. Well, I could just Bitter Triumph Kellen too. Maybe Visage and Bitter Triumph is kind of spicy. We can see exactly what's going on in their hand, so we know if we need to save the Bitter Triumph or not. Okay, so they're going to have 4 mana next turn. So they can go land and Cloud Guard, or land an adaptive gem guard. If they get to 5 mana, the Master's Guide Mural can totally take over the game. So maybe I just take the Guide Mural anyway, even though that's just going to let them play Cloud Guard. Cloud Guard is going to be super annoying here. I think as long as they don't get like a really consistent engine like the Master Guide Mural, we can probably win in the long run. Because with this thing and the Iceberg together, they can keep untapping it when they attack and get like 2 4/4s a turn any turn they play an artifact. So I think we just want to counteract that. And then do I want to just kill Kellen or play my own Iceberg? I don't think there's anything in their hand that like really needs to be killed. Like Gem Guard sorta does. I guess the Flyer sorta does. As soon as I get a 3/3 down though, Kellen doesn't get to attack anymore, so I don't think I'm spending removal on Kellen. Let's just drop the Iceberg. Alright, Kellen sends in, finds a clay-fired bricks, and they're going to mill that. There's an Oltec Cloud Guard. We have land 5, we can just drop Oakbenbach. Or I can Pirates it up. Kind of want to get them to spend their exile removal somehow before I drop this thing. Let's go for the Pirates here. We can lock down the Flyer and then block the Kellen. They could Wrestler so Kellen doesn't immediately die, but that still wouldn't kill the Pirates. Nice. Turn this thing into a 2/2. I don't think Cave Crawler's a particularly bad draw here, but I think we have enough stuff with all these craft abilities and descend cards that we just want to mill pretty much anything we see. I guess they do need 6 mana to exile this. Maybe we will still jam it down, because this will never be tapped by itself. So they need to hit 2 more lands before they can spend their 6 mana removal on this. This is only cheaper to cast on tapped creatures. Okay, they need 1 more land. That makes me a little happier with my choice not to cast them yet. Fabrication Foundry. Alright, they're going deep. That is a mana rock for their artifacts, and they can exile some artifacts they control to bring one back from their graveyard. So they can try to bring back that Master's Guide Mural, probably. Obviously, I don't have any interaction for artifacts in a blue-black deck, so that's a rough time for us. They are down to 13, which is a big deal here. I have 2 creatures in grave. I do have 2 creatures in grave if I just want to flip this, get a big menace creature. I may mill 2 when it enters the battlefield or attacks, so I can also fuel my grave. Kind of like that. I think I'm going to flip that thing. Then next turn I have the mana for the Great Mistake and the Bitter Triumph at the same time. Yeah, so I just immediately replace the 2 cards that I exiled, and I stay at Descend 4 here. Oh, except I hit the blunder. I am wrong, I'm at Descend 3. Alright, they're down to 11. There's the 6th mana for the exile spell. If they want to tap out for it, then we can drop the Great Mistake. They are going to tap out for it. Great Mistake is going to stick around now. And this forces a double block because of the menace that we can then Bitter Triumph and win the double block. Down to 8, though. That's a big swing from the Gem Guard. Yep, we have exactly enough mana for Great Mistake plus Bitter Triumph. I think that is the best play we have. A little scared at 8, but with Bitter Triumph, I think we send here. And they're going to trump with the gnome, maybe? Or they're going to go for the double block for the kill? I better triumph immediately here to keep the pirates out. Whittle down this board the maximum amount. Don't think I do. I think I'm fine just trading into Kellen. There's an Iron Paw Aspirant for a +1/+1 counter onto the flyer that kills me in 2 hits by itself. Tap 2 artifacts, buff the Gem Guard. I can hit them for 8 damage? I can hit them for 1 off of lethal if I kill one of their blockers? No, because they have the Cogwork Wrestler up. That thing's an instant speed way to give something -2/-0. Dang. So, probably at the point here I actually have to... Well, if I do this, then they just Cogwork Wrestler. And then this is 4 power, this is 5 total with these two together. Yeah, I can't kill that. So we have to chump and kill the flyer. And I've got a Sage to chump with, which is a big deal. Yeah, they can't stop me from killing the flyers, that's big. And then they don't have good blocks. They only have 3 power on their board, even with the Wrestler. So they can't kill the 6/4 Vigilance attacker. Alright, play the Iceberg. I mean, I guess they could hit something here. A 2-mana or less blue creature. They do not find one, though. Ooh. Zoetic Glyph? Hold up. Turn an artifact into a 5/4. It discovers 3 when it dies. Probably better than trying to flip this into a land. They're at 9 life here. So they don't have to block at all. They can just go to 1. But they probably will block. I can make a 6/6. I can make one of my things a 5/4 and play a 3/2. I think I'm going to play pretty defensive here. I'm just going to attack with these two. And I'm going to play 2 blockers here with Sage of Days plus Zoetic Glyph. Alright, they have 3 power to block with. Cool. Sage of Days, see what's coming up. If I mill both of these, then the Everflowing Well will flip next turn, so if I put a glyph on it, it'll not be a creature by our next upkeep, but we'll discover off of it. Is a 4/5 good enough to keep on top here? I genuinely don't think so. Oops. Oh, I forgot. I was going to click on the 3 cards to mill the 3. Okay, I guess we're keeping the Cave Worm. It's not the worst in the world. Just not clicking correctly there. Put this on the Iceberg, because the Well's going to auto-flip next turn. With the Iceberg, I can at least choose whether or not I want to flip it into a 6/6 and discover 3. They do have 5 mana value of artifacts on their board for the Fabrication Foundry, if they want to pick up the Mastercraft thing. I mean, they have well more than 5 mana worth. Guess I could crack Promising Vein to shuffle my deck before my draw step if I want. If I dislike that Cave Worm on top. If I can hit them with literally just one of my creatures, they will die. So there is that. That might be helpful, just having the Cave Worm on top so that I just have a hasty 4/5 by turning a land into a 4/5 off of the Myriad pools. That might be a thing, but I'll put the stop on my upkeep. We'll just see what happens here with their combat. We're at 8 life, so I mean, I have to like chump the Gem Guard, but I can let pretty much anything else in. Ooh, Guardian of the Great Door, a giant flyer to kill me with? That's super duper mega bad. They're at 3. I'll have 5 attackers against their 5 blockers. One of which has Menace, but I'll only hit for 2, right? Because they can just let the Siren specifically in and block everything else. So Cave Worm will not kill them. If I use Promising Vein and I don't top deck a land, I can't like flip the Iceberg to have a 6/6 and discover this turn instead. And I am not a big fan of my options here. Think I keep this and just draw. Send in the Great Mistake. I probably still should have done main phase 1 Cave Worm, then I send in with the Great Mistake and the Cave Worm. But now I still have the Iceberg flip option to try to find another flyer. So this returns from the graveyard to the battlefield. It's not casting it if I do that. Okay. They're at 3. Just chump the flyer, have the blockers at the ready. See if they find a way to get our flyer out of the way. That would put us to 4, but still not insta-dead. Still going to take 2 swings to hit us, I suppose. To kill us. Okay. Can turn a land into a 1/2 if they want. Doesn't really do anything. But they do get a +1/+1 counter for casting this, which is big. Okay, they're turning the 1/1 into the 1/2, so they're going to spend the rest of their mana on the Iceberg to get a 6/6 blocker up, which is pretty good. Oh my god, okay, so they're going to attack with the flyer. This would make it so if we top deck a flyer, we kill them. We just need to do 1 more damage. I think I take this, and we see if we can top deck a flyer with the Myriad pools. So we have a hasty flyer, hit for lethal. If we top deck our knife thing, that works as well. Have it drain them for life in the end step. We've got the mana to play it and craft it. Fabrication Foundry for the Master Thingy-mabob. Okay, so get a 4/4 here. Instead of a 6/6. Oh, they do have to craft it to the backside to tap it every single turn, so they can't do that yet. Cool. So let's Promising Vein to make it slightly more likely to hit an on-land. And see what we get. A land. Okay. They're at 3 life. If I get a Hasting Cave Worm with their 5 blockers, 4 attackers on the ground, they double block this, block, let's see, double block that, and they go block, 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 and they don't die. So we have to Myriad pools the Cave Worm, and it just attack with everybody on the ground. It does force chumps on every single attack there. So we just clear out their ground troops. I guess it's not chumps. They can put the 4/4 on the 3/2. think this is still very reasonable, though. Since I'll still have a 4/5 blocker on the ground. Cool. So next turn it has turned into 100%. If they kill the flyer, we're dead. If they don't, they're dead. Or if they tap it. So let's see what they top deck. I don't think there's any artifacts engraved that tap one of our flyers when it hits the board or anything. There is not. Here's the chump. And there's the concession. Crazy, crazy game there. Really long one. With a lot of just grindy stuff going on. That was pretty spicy back and forth there. We are 3-0 now, heading into game number 4. Here we are for game 4. We're on the play. Promising Vein looking super bad here. Just crack it, turn 2 for a blue source. I mean, it's still a keep. Still a keep, but Promising Vein is really slowing this hand down. Frilled Caveworm is the draw. That is going to be very solid after a Sage of Days. Curve. Another Caveworm, okay. Okay. I'm pretty down with that. I could just Blade the Brawler, because it's probably not killing anything better, but maybe we can get the Sage to trade into the Brawler here, and have the Blade kill a bigger creature they play later. We do really want to draw land next turn, so I'm going to keep a land, mill the rest. It's 3 out of 4 for the Caveworms. They will definitely be 4/5s by the time they're attacking, I think. 4 permanents engrave. Boom, 4 permanents engrave. We have descended. And our opponent has a Scythe Claw Raptor. Let's make sure not to cast things during their turn. I could Blade it. Kill a 4/3, drop a Siren for the turn. I don't hate that, but a 4/5 is big enough to block this thing anyway. So either way is pretty chill. Let's go ahead and Blade it. I could see them playing another 2-drop that they draw into, and then the Blade gets significantly worse. I don't think it's super likely to be able to, like, kill their lone 6/6 Trampler or something like that. Alright, cool. Hit our land for next turn. 4 mana, there's a Bedrock Tortoise, big old 0/6, but it attacks as a 6/6, which is obviously a problem. Craft with creatures. I could mill a creature from grave and just start draining them for life. I think it is still better at this point to just play a bunch of 4/5s. Crack back at them when they hit us with the tortoise. Important to keep in mind that all their stuff has hexproof during their turn, so if we draw our instant speed removal spell, gotta make sure to use that as a sorcery. They did hit a 2/2, so hey, we did not Tithing Blade a 2-drop. At least there's that, even if we didn't manage to get the tortoise. Ooh, Zoetic Glyph. Start just beating them down with the blade itself instead of flipping it. I don't hate it. If they kill the blade with an Abrade here, that's going to be rough. That's the only thing I could think of that would be really bad for me. Isn't bad enough to not do this here. It's such a mana efficient turn if I go Sage plus Glyph, so I think I'm going to do that here, and we're just hoping for not Abrade, basically. No instant speed naturalize. If they blow it up after Glyph resolves, it's really not a bad time, but if they do it before, I'm going to be very sad. Fingers crossed, no Abrade, no Abrade. One time. Let me do 6 drops here. Perfect. Perfect stuff. I think we're racing. We've got 10 power on board. About to put 3 more out with another Sage. There's a chump. Ooh, combat trip. Ooh, kill the 4/5 it is, but it's a 2-for-1. We kill their creature and their combat trick. Here's our Sage of Days. Waterlogged Hulk does not actually seem like a bad draw here. I'm at 5. I'll be at Descend 7 already. Yeah, that's just going to be an unblockable vehicle real quick. I can just play it and mill my 8th permanent the turn that I play it. Well, there's a kin color to gain 3. Help them out with the race. They're holding up the blockers now. So yeah, very happy to have a potential unblockable threat coming. 7 permanents in grave right now. Yeah, 7 out of 8. I think I do spend a turn milling that. Oh, I guess I could play this, mill a card, and flip it in the same turn. Yeah, that's probably better. That kills them faster than playing this and the worm in the same turn. So mill first. There's the 8th permanence. Although I have to craft with an island, so if I exile an island from my grave, I'm back to 7. But if I exile an island from the board, I'm down a mana. I still think we exile an island from the board to keep 8 permanents in grave. Alright, they pass turn here. Here's a River Herald Scout. See if I can top deck a land and play this and the Cave Worm. Just luck sack McGee it up. Well, we don't luck sack it, but Everflowing Well is going to be an excellent draw anyway. Yeah, I can just poke them for 4 3 times. I don't need the extra 1 point of damage. Let's hold up slightly more blockers here, instead of hitting them with the 4/4 and the 1/1. Geological Appraiser, great spell. A 3/2 and another spell. And they find Pugnacious Hammerskull, which is literally just a 3-mana 6/6. As long as they have another dinosaur, it has no drawback. And they certainly do. That's big. That's beef. And yeah, now they can afford to attack with their other 6/6. Block with these two. If they kill the Tithing Blade, then I get to discover. If they kill the Scout, then my 2/3 traded up into a 6/6. I think this is a good block for us. Alright, so we discover and cast the Well for free. Which means it'll flip next turn immediately. Which is hilarious. I think we can lethal here. I'm not exactly sure how, but I think we can. So I can Waylaying Pirates and stun one of their cards, as well as doubling the Pirates with the pools, so I have another 3/3 attacker. They have 2 blockers up. They block 2 3-power creatures. And take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm 1 mana from lethal. Or not 1 mana, 1 damage from lethal. I think I still do that. That's the coolest play, for sure. We play a Pirates. We activate a land. We stun a 6/6. We crew a Gondola. We attack with everybody, put them to 1. And they have to lose at least 1 creature here to not die. I think they have to lose both creatures. I think they have to trade into the 3/3s to not die. Yeah, they trade into the 3/3s and go to 1. Or choose death. That is an option as well. We are now 4-0, heading into game 5. Here we are now for game number 5. No 1-drop, no 2-drop. This has some great late game plays. Definitely a keep still. I'm pretty good at fueling the Descend for all these Descend cards. Ooh, with a Bitter Triumph as well. A removal spell that fuels Descend. Our opponent is on mono red for now. Drop their 2-mana 2/2. I am not going to Bitter Triumph their 2-drop. I'm going to play the Sage here. I really need to top deck a land and play a 4-drop next turn, so we're going to use this to make sure we hit one. Let's decline, because these are not lands. That's going to be 3 permanents to the graveyard, and Sage of Days just helped us a lot. This card is going very, very far up in my estimates lately. Thought this card was going to be complete garbage, but in this Descend deck, it's filling the graveyard and getting us way closer to a land. That was probably the best Sage of Days enter the battlefield effect I'm going to get for quite some time. And I'm pretty cool with trading off with it just to get a 4th permanent in the graveyard. So that's the other thing I didn't realize. Usually 3-mana 3/2s, pretty rough because you just don't want to trade down into a 2-mana 2/2. But in the kind of deck that's running Sage of Days, you sort of do. You just want to toss this thing in the graveyard so that your Cave Crawler has Descend 4. So we will Bitter Triumph if they play another blocker big enough to trade into the Crawler. Because it'll be worth the card spent to draw more cards. And now I just get to hold up Bitter Triumph just in case they try to combat trick the Crawler. And they don't. We just straight draw a card there. Sweet deal. They're mono red for now. Any red removal can just kill the Crawler, period. Bitter Triumph is not going to save our Crawler from any red removal spells, so I think we're okay to tap out here and just play the Cave Worm. If they were a green deck, I'd probably rather play the River Herald Scout and hold up Bitter Triumph, because if Cave Crawler sticks around forever, it is going to take over the game with all that card draw. So being able to have Bitter Triumph up in case they try to use a fight spell for one of their green creatures to kill our Cave Crawler would be really nice. But against a red deck, they're just going to have an Abrade or a Rumbling Rock Slide, something that just deals damage to this thing and kills it. So, don't need to hold up the Triumph. Send in again. Just absolutely overflowing with card advantage over here, and we get to slam down the Great Mistake, our 6/4 Vigilant Menace card. It's probably the safe way to call out when we're casting that spell. I definitely know how to pronounce those words. We are now 5-0 heading into game number 6. I would love to know all the pronunciations on all this stuff, but obviously I'm not going to know the correct pronunciation until someone informs me, and then we can roll with the correct pronunciations from then on, hopefully. Anyways, at 5-0, we're in the money no matter what if this was not with Wizards' Monopoly bucks, so at this point we're super happy with any record we get from here, but see if we can't take this into a full-on 7-win run again. Now we've got a mono blue hand, but it's a good mono blue hand, so I'll keep it. Our opponent starts with a turn 1 Ruin Lurker Bat, which is pretty solid with +1/+1 counters and equipment. Same with the Guide Wing. Oh yeah, 3 1-mana white spells. They are just gonna absolutely curve out on us. And if they get some +1/+1 counters on this board, we're gonna have a bad time. Uh-oh. White-black? That could be the sacrifice deck that has the 3-mana 3/2 that you sack a creature to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 cards. That would be really good with these 1-mana flyers. They're dropping down everywhere. Do I glyph up the Iceberg and attack in here? I would trade into a Guide Wing, and I'd trade into 2 of their 1-drops, right? Because they'd sack 1 to the Vanguard, and a Guide Wing would have to block as well. I kind of like that better than just going for Riddle next turn. Although if they just don't block, that's going to be pretty bad, but then, like, what is Riddle doing for me? I'm still taking just as much. I guess I just stop their next spell, which could be a big deal. Hard choice. Glyph it up or Riddle it up. I'm just going to glyph it up. I think the trade's solid for me because we'd discover as well if they go for it. And if they don't, we just try to race here and see if that pans out for us. Uh-oh, we are racing here. Acolyte of Aclazots that can sack their cards to drain us for life. Down to 10. Really hard to race the lifelinker. Stop all the damage on the ground with a Cave Worm. And then we just take 4 damage, 3 in the sky and 1 from the ability. Yep. Still send him with the iceberg and slam down a cave worm here. If the game lasts long enough, we can try to use Confounding Riddle as a combat trick to buff these all up to 4 power. Maybe kill them out of nowhere by doing that. Oof. Bitter Triumph means we take a lot, but we're not dead on board. Take 7. Down to 3. Now, I think we are dead on the crackback no matter what. If we had like 1 more mana, we might not be, but with this mana available, we're just dead. No, even if we had 1 more mana, right? We just bounce a bat and then they just sack the... hit us for 2 and sack a creature to the Acolyte. We can't stop both of those things from happening. Shoot. Yeah, this was just the hyper aggro deck. They just dumped their whole hand in like 3 turns. Alright, we're a little too slow for this kind of matchup. And they will find victory, giving us our first loss at 5-1. Here we are now for Game 7 against the Ham TV. Very, very great player. Another pro player. Does a lot of draft content on Twitch and has a podcast as well. Definitely highly recommend the Ham TV or Kyle Rose as his just pro player IRL name. Alright, a blue-red deck. These can be some real aggro artifact builds. There's the Dire Flail with nothing to slap it onto, so at least he's got a slower hand here. Sage of Days into the Cave Worm here. Just set that bad boy up. Don't dislike it. We can save the Riddle and the Blunder for interaction for later. Just get some stuff on board for now. I've already got all the mana I need. Shove that in the grave. This Dire Flail's a super, super scary... Oh wow, I'm super cool with the Abrade. This is a really scary rare, because if they craft it and flip it, they get to just start just throwing their treasure tokens at our creatures as removal spells, and it's going to be just hard to beat. Okay. I'm going to drop the River Herald Scout here because I'm fairly confident that the Ham is going to go ahead and drop a 3-power creature and just crew the Belligerent and get in with that thing. I'd like to bounce it and counter it ideally. Yep, there's the 3-power creature. That also pulls out a land when it hits the board, so really good value. Crew the Belligerent. Why can't I do this right now, Arena? Okay, there we go. Bounce that before it gets tapped. Just to stop its ability, stop them from getting the treasure token and maybe playing a 1-drop off the top. So it'll be summoning sick. It'll be summoning sick next turn, even if I don't counter it. It's a tiny argument to not counter it. It is really bad for me if the Ham just plays some other spells next turn and I just have a 2-3 down and just flail up a Surveyor and go to town. Yeah, I'm just going to slam this thing. Let them recast it with Summoning Sickness. We try to outrace here before that thing pops off. Alright, equip a Surveyor. Get in with a 5-2. That's a big boy. There's a Sunfire Torch, just a bunch of equipment they can throw around as removal spells, and there's the Belligerent again. You can play the Waterwind Scout and hold up the Riddle, which seems decent. Hit for 8 here. Down to 10. We've got a 6-4 Menace, 2-2 Flyer. The 2-2 Flyer would just die to the Torch. That's kind of a problem. Yeah, sack it to any target. Oh, that torch is really bad for the scout. I don't think I can just hold up Riddle and cast nothing else, though. So I guess we at least get rid of the torch here. How much does this thing take to equip on the backside? 1? Okay. All right. So, I mean, they can order their triggers to where I think they can flip this thing for 5, exiling the torch, and then spend 1 to equip it, crew the belligerent, then they just sack the treasure and like shoot anything for like 5 damage. I'm not actually certain on that, but they sack any artifact on the flipped half. All right. They're going for a different route here. World's largest belligerent is the play. I think we... I kind of want to take the trade to stop them from drawing a million cards off of this ability over and over where they can keep playing stuff from the top. But at the same time, they're down to 10, and this is a menace, vigilant threat. Just really gets in for the damage. Uh-oh. Oh no, that plus another burn spell? I mean, I can counter the burn spell if it doesn't cost 1. Costs 2, I can counter that. Alright, sweet. Well, he's done on board, so now I have to choose... Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, RIP then, I guess. We just get triple abraded there. All right. I mean, that does it. I don't think we chump. Yeah, no. That was close to going really well for us, but triple abrade was not it, Chief. Okay. Well, let's explore. See if we can get this to 3 toughness. What? Ham TV finding the magical Christmas land draft prod of quadruple abrade in the top 16 cards of his deck too, so statistically speaking, that would mean he has like 8 abrades. I mean, we're so far behind whatever I do now. Crew this, put a flail, 7/5 attacker. I could try to go for the double block again, but he can flip the flail really easily now with the torch in the grave, and then sack the treasure that the belligerent makes to the flail and kill any blocker. No, I mean, we're just dead. There's no way we're gonna have a double walk up. Maybe I'll die on board for doing this, but holding up and trying to get the double block is certainly not going to be winning here, with the flip side of Flail's ability to just kill one of our blockers anyway. Can it shoot the face too? If it can shoot the face too, then he can just shoot our face and force a chump here. Actually, no, he can shoot our face and kill us, because it's +3 on the flip instead of +2? Wow, yeah, it is. And yep, he can order it that way. Well, it doesn't shoot the face, but it still clears the path for the lethal there. Yeah, I mean, the alternative is to lose our whole board and have no follow-up. I mean, the follow-up could be Ukmenbach, but then he attacks and kills Ukmenbach by sacking the treasure again the next turn. That was disgusting. These two rares synergize like peanut butter and jelly to demolish us. And on top of that, like, we maybe could have fought our way through these if we had that counterspell work out for us, but he had the quadruple abrade to make sure We could not stop what was going on. That was a devastating match. Incredible, incredible deck from the Ham TV there. And we are 5-2 heading into round 8. All right, here we are for round number 8. Iceberg turn 2, scout after that, fill up that graveyard pretty well for our cave worm, and the great mistake. Hidden courtyard from our opponent turn 1, so they are on white. Our iceberg hits an island, draws us a card. Draws us the Brackish Blunder. Kind of rough to mill an island here since we've drawn triple swamp. I would love a second island. With a cave worm coming up, I'm a little happier to play Sage of Days than Scout right now. And actually kind of like all these draws, but cave worm is the spiciest. Get a double cave worm onto this board with the crew ready. Tithing Blade's really bad against this freebooter. It's certainly not keeping that. Yeah, let's keep a cave worm. I could also keep another Sage and just really get the mill towards the send 8. But we don't need the 8 permanents in grave till this is in our grave too, so don't need that for quite some time. Alright, here's our cave worm. Our opponent's on a black-white deck, so they can definitely sacrifice their little fungus tokens for some great value in the color pair. And there's the Old Tech Cloud Guard, the MVP, best white common probably. 3/2 flyer and a 1/1 off of the 1 spell. Keep curving out here, drop the great mistake down. Get ready to jam in with that with a bounce spell as backup. Any kind of instant speed interaction plays really well with menace creatures to try to ruin their blocks. But their board state's good enough, they'll probably still be able to find a good block if they just block it with literally everybody. There's a skull-cap snail. That's tremendously annoying. You have to fully exile the card so we don't get another permanent for descend. Got exactly enough mana to go Scout Blunder next turn. If I hit a 6th land, I can just flip the Iceberg instead by exiling Blade from grave. So I don't think Worm actually fits into the curve super well. Scout Blunder for 5 mana, or if I hit a 6th, play a 6/6 feels like the best play coming up. So we exile the second Cave Worm. Guardian of the Great Door for super cheap, just a 4/4 flyer for 2. Solid, solid deal. We find the Waterlogged Hulk. If we can get to 8 permanents in grave, that'll be a nice unblockable attacker. So we can play the Scout and the Blunder here. Seems good. I could also mill the card to just make this a 4/5 off of the Waterlogged Hulk. So maybe I drop the Hulk pre-combat. And then, like, if they block in a dumb way, I combat trick kill with Cave Worm. Kill the Guardian specifically. Then we just don't blunder this turn. We play the Hulk and the Scout, setting up for the future. I don't hate it. I mean, they're not going to mess up this block, I imagine, but maybe. I mean, I could always hit an instant on top. We'll see. Take that gamble. We did hit a permanent, so hit for 10. We do just straight have their life total here regardless, which is pretty good. Here's the Waterwind Scout. And since I've got nothing else to hold up for 1, we'll just explore immediately. Land for turn. I don't think I play around another Skullcap Snail, because if they have it, I might want to keep the land anyway, just to guarantee I can flip Iceberg next turn. Deadweight the Waterwind Scout, that one's pretty good. Now a spring-loaded Saw Blades to kill the Frilled Cave Worm, and this is getting real gross. They can still only hit us in the sky thanks to our gigantic menace creature. Okay. 6 permanents in grave, not enough for an unblockable Hulk yet. If they block with their whole board, I can still bounce the Necromage and have the Great Mistake kill everybody else. So we are definitely attacking with that. And then we see what we want to do post-combat, I imagine. Block with those two and we bounce the 3-1. And this means we're not making a 6-6 this turn, but it is worth. Okay. I can flip the Hulk with 7 permanents engrave if I hit one off the mill. Or I can play the River Herald Scout and just mill again for now. They kill me in 2 swings, but they kill me in 2 swings whether or not I bounced a flyer, so I think it was reasonable to bounce on a block there. I have to somehow just like kill them next turn, and it doesn't feel super possible. I guess the most likely route would be if we have a flipped Hulk with unblockability alongside the Great Mistake. So we go for that to get rid of its summoning sickness, and I think we actually exile a land from the board instead of grave to be closer to Descend 8. What is the flip side of this? Just a crew vehicle, crew 1. All right. 1 turn in a dream is what it's going to be here. Again, if I didn't bounce on blocks here, if I instead bounced one of the flyers, they would still hit me to 7 and then have 7 power flyers on board. So it would still be a 2-turn clock. I think we used our bounce about as well as we could there to clear out a little bit of a path for the Great Mistake. I don't think we can afford to be playing around like combat tricks and stuff at this point. If they've got one, they've got one. Okay. We take the 7 in the sky. Goes to our turn. Find a Visage of Dread. So that is not 8 permanents in grave. It doesn't impact the board at all. So we're dead. I mean, I can scout and mill a non-land maybe, and then have an unblockable gondola and just send a message, but I can't deal lethal. I guess we do it. Do everything we can here. 6 for the craft. Yeah. No, land on top can't even have Descend 8. Dang. That makes it really sad. Oh, hey. Actually made them discard something. That's cute. But this game is over. 5 and 3 this draft. Bummer of an ending. Always super sad to go with an undefeated streak into 3 losses in a row. But that's Magic for you. Definitely a game of variance. You're going to hit some really great win streaks and some bad loss streaks in a row. Will happen. This game really just could not find the hard removal for the flyers. One of the big flaws of the deck for sure. It is low on removal. Alright, so our 3 losses here. Lose to some flyers because we don't have enough removal. And lose to aggro because our deck's pretty slow. Well, hyper aggro really. Like 3 1-drops on turn 2. And then we lost to the incredible Dream Team combo of the Belligerent with the Blunderbuss with quadruple Abrade to back them up. So I think our second loss against the Ham TV's blue-red deck, I think that's just a cream of the crop S+ tier deck. You're not going to face that quality of cards that often. I don't think there's anything we could have done there. But against these more aggressive decks, certainly there were things we could do in our deck building and our drafting to be a little bit lower on the curve, have a little bit more interaction, and maybe try to find a couple more wins that way. But I'm still really happy with how this deck ended up. It was really fun. It was quite different from our blue-red artifact kind of deck with the blue-black Descend build. I am still happy I went for the double Sage of Days and triple Cave Worm over putting more interaction in the deck, like the counter spells, because sure, while it did probably get us killed in that final game, if I just had some counter spells instead of Cave Worms, we wouldn't have died to those flyers, and we can probably grind it out with the Waterlogged Hulk. We probably would have won that game, but it wouldn't have helped us at all against the hyper aggro deck, and it still made the deck a little more distinct, a little more fun. It was really, really nice seeing those Sage of Days actually play out to be pretty dang good in the deck. So happy to have put them in, even if maybe the final build wasn't the correct build. I'm sure there's something else we could have cut instead of Sage of Days for those counter spells to have a little bit more of a chance in that matchup against the Flyers. But yeah, overall, still a really solid run and a really fun game of Magic. Really fun draft of Magic, I should say, for today. But that's going to end our draft. We'll grab our gems, and that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing some more videos, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.